How's everybody today? Good. Well, look, after looking at the Penn State game, as I said after the game, I was really kind of pleased and proud of the way our guys competed in the game. I think we really played hard, really played physical in the game. And I think this game sort of defines the importance of execution. I think when we executed things properly, we got really good results. And when we didn't execute, you pay the consequences for it when you play a little better teams. Example of that is the backside linebacker runs through and somebody's supposed to block down on him on the goal line on 3rd and 1, and nobody blocks him, and the guy blows you up in the backfield, and then everybody wants to go for it on 4th down. And I say, well, if we ain't going to block the backside linebacker, we're not going for it on 4th down, so let's kick a field goal and make it a 3-score game. So, and that's what the offensive line is getting ready to hear in a little bit too. But there were a lot of good things. We didn't turn the ball over. We didn't get sacked. We only had 1 penalty offensively, which means we really handled the crowd noise. We did a little better on 3rd down. Defensively, after the first series, sort of settled down, made some mental errors in the beginning of the game, which were not helpful. But got 3 turnovers, stopped the run pretty well, didn't give a lot of big plays up, did not play as well on 3rd down as we'd like, and that's something that we need to improve on. Special teams, we did a pretty good job, but probably didn't get the kind of net punt that we'd like, and we need to improve on that. But I think the big thing here is you correct mistakes, you work to eliminate the deficiencies of your team, and improve and show it in the game on Saturday. So that's kind of what we're trying to do with our team right now. We had some players of the week, which I know you already got, but William Vallejo's, Michael Williams on offense, Mark Barron, C.J. Mosley, and Drake Kirkpatrick. Mark's also the SEC Defensive Player of the Week, and special teams traded Caprice, Finney, D. Milner, and Alex Watkins all did a really good job. And injury-wise, we don't really have any new problems. Chris Jordan, we're probably going to just hold out for a week. He's been kind of nicked up for about 2 weeks and practices a little bit, but never seems to get where he needs to be. So we're probably just going to hold him out for a week. He hasn't really played yet, although he has been trying to practice. We got a couple guys that are nicked up, but nobody that can't practice today or won't be back, for sure, tomorrow. I don't have anything else to report on Deron Carter, so you don't even need to ask about it. You'll be the first ones to know when we get the information. If we get the information, when we get the information, however you want to say that. And, it'll be good to have Darius Hanks back, give us an explosive receiver on offense with experience. Been a really good thing for our receiver group. I saw some maturity out of some guys. All those guys played better. Kevin Norwood played better. Kenny Bell played better. DeAndre White played better. They all played better from first week to second week. And hopefully this experience that they've all gotten is going to help them sort of continue to gain confidence and be able to improve as we go through the year. North Texas State, is a team, in my opinion, that has some very, very good players. That's very capable of making explosive plays. They have probably one of the best running backs that as good as anybody will play against. I mean, the guy gained almost 1,600 yards last year, and Lance Dunbar is a really, really good player. They run a lot of, zone option, lots of formations. They got a great return guy in Chancellor, who's number 80, who is a very good kickoff returner. McCarney has come from some really good programs and is a really good coach, and you can see a lot of improvement in their team. And they finished the year last year scoring a lot of points, and they're still a pretty explosive offensive team. So, we need to get ready for this game and focus on what we needed to do to correct the things that we need to correct, work on eliminating the deficiencies and the problems that we have, and improve as a team and show it in the game on Saturday.
A kind of a two-part question on the running backs. One, how is Eddie Lacy kind of handled his new role? It seems like he's done well. And Trent, he's having to fight for a lot of yards. Could you just kind of rate his first couple of games?
Trent's done a good job so far. When you're carrying the ball, it's a little bit what do we block and what do we do? And I think early in the game especially, in 2 games in a row, we haven't done a very good job up front. We did a much better job from an offensive line standpoint this week as the game went on. And, got a hat on a hat and got some movement on some people and had some holes to run through. And, Trent took advantage of that, and Eddie took advantage of it as well. But, Trent had some tough yards. And, when you don't block the 3 technique and he runs through and hits you as soon as you get the ball, I mean, you could be Superman. You're still going to lose 5 yards. So whose fault is that?
Coach, A.J. certainly seemed to come through with a good performance. How do you handle the quarterbacks this week and on Saturday? Is there a plan? I'm sure there's a plan, but can you tell us a plan?
Well, we'll continue to work the quarterbacks as we did last week, which was, 2 for 1, because we want to continue to develop Phillip. We'd like to play Phillip if we get opportunities to play him, because I do still feel both guys are good quarterbacks, and I think there's good competition there, and I think there's room for improvement with both guys, and we'd like to continue to do that. The thing that A.J. probably did in this game is he managed the game well, and he didn't make the bad mistakes. He made some good throws, and made a couple that he could have made a little better, maybe, but he didn't make the bad mistake. There's only one occasion where he probably threw a ball that he shouldn't have thrown, and the rest of the time he was in the right spot, in the right place. We didn't always have him beat or open or whatever, but and I think in that situation, playing that team, we did what we needed to do on offense to give ourselves the best chance to win the game. And he did a good job of carrying that out. So Phillip didn't get an opportunity, so there can be no evaluation made between that. But, we're going to continue to try to develop both guys this week in practice.
Coach, if you could just talk a little bit more about what Darius Hanks coming back means to the team in terms of leadership, and also has he been getting, I guess, normal practice reps so that his transition back will be pretty easy?
Well, I don't think his transition back will be a problem. The guy's been playing around here for 2 or 3 years and has a lot of experience, and he's been the scout team player of the week 2 weeks in a row, because he's been working against the defense for the scout team periods, and then when we go against each other, he works against the offense. But that's only been for the last 2 weeks. Prior to that, he was working completely with the offense. So there should be no transition period here. There should be no transition problems. And I'm sure if he plays well, we managed it right. And if he plays poorly, you can all get on us for managing it wrong. But the fact of the matter is he's an experienced player, and he ought to be able to go out there and play well with a lot of confidence and do the things he's been doing for a long time. And so, but you could create something like y'all did last week with the offensive line and all that. Makes it a little more fun for me to have something to react to.
Coach, it seemed like last year you came out of the Penn State game with a lot more injury concerns. Have you done anything different this year with your approach that's led to the fewer injuries this year?
No, I can't even remember how many injuries we had last year. So, seems like means what? What it seems like? How many guys did we have hurt last year? Because I don't really know. But we did come back in a little better condition this year as a team. One of the best conditioning tests and all that we've had. And, we've had 2 pretty physical games, and that was a really physical game on Saturday. So, both sides. And, I don't know that there's any specific reason for it.
Just wondering, after fumbles were a concern last year, creating them, how satisfying it was to get two taken away on Saturday?
Well, I just think the 3 turnovers in the game were probably the real key factors in the game, no question about that. And 2 fumble recoveries were great. Both of them were caused fumbles, and did a good job of getting to the ball. I mean, we have really emphasized, trying to create fumbles and get turnovers, and as long as we get turnovers, I don't care how they come. Last year we got lots of interceptions and not very many fumbles, and hopefully we can do both this year.
On special teams, with Trey and Vinny, they seem to be near the ball every time there's a kickoff or punt. Just having freshmen like that, how big is that to have those guys?
Well, I think it's really important to have 4 or 5 core special teams guys on your team, and especially guys that aren't starters, because in a lot of cases, Trent Richardson can cover kickoffs better than anybody on our team, and he actually did that for a while here. But we really don't want him to play on the kickoff coverage team. So, we have several other guys that are really, really good special teams guys, but they play for 60 or 70 plays in a game. So it's really, really good for your team when you have 4 or 5 guys who are really good special teams players who aren't starters. And that's what they look forward to. That's what they prepare for. That's what they do. And you feel like they can do it as well as anybody on the team. And you're certainly not making any compromises to play them to hold somebody else out from doing it. So, and when you get 4 or 5 core guys like that, it sort of lightens the load on everybody else in terms of what you have to do. And depth on your team usually is what sort of gives you the opportunity to find those kind of guys. And those 2 guys have certainly done a good job so far. And they're both instinctive. They can run. They love to play. And they've done a really good job.
Coach, I have 2 questions. The first is, could you speak about the leadership that you're seeing from William Blahos on an offensive line that's still trying to gel together?
And what? I can remember 2.
And the second would be, could you go through like the training regimen that you put your team through, like on a week-to-week basis, like their training schedule, diet, what you put them through in practice, just anything that you do to prepare them for that week's team?
Well, first of all, William Vallejos and Barrett Jones both have done a really good job from a leadership standpoint with the offensive line. And I do think, as the game wore on at Penn State, we started to win the line of scrimmage, and we started to sort of insert our will a little bit as an offensive line. And I think we changed a few things in terms of the kind of plays that we ran. And, a lot of fans would say, well, you ran the ball inside a lot. Well, when you got big, powerful guys, maybe that's the best way to do it. And we got beat with quickness and trying to run the ball to the perimeter in the first game. So we had more direct runs in this game. And I think that probably helped the guys develop a little confidence. Now, we need to do the other things as well. And we'll continue to work to try to improve that. So, but those 2 guys have done a really good job, and from a leadership standpoint, they have a lot of knowledge and experience, and they're smart, and they've got great personalities to help the other guys on the team. The training regiment deal is, I mean, you're talking about writing a book about something. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into a weekly, there's a lot of things that go into training for a season that starts all the way back in February. And then there's a lot of things that go on a week-to-week basis that it would be difficult, to touch on all those things. But I will say that we do have a nutritionist who tries to control the menu as well as the diet of certain players relative to some guys need to eat body fat, some guys need to lose body fat. So, we kind of try to address that. We have a conditioning regimen that we do on a weekly basis whether it's a minimal amount of weightlifting to maintain strength or the way we condition in practice early in the week. But the emphasis that we try to make with our players is if you really practice hard, you will get the number of reps in practice. If you finish plays and practice hard, then we shouldn't need to condition. You should be in condition for the game because, but if you're not given that kind of effort on each play, then we're going to need to condition more to try to get you ready to play the game. Because when the game comes, you're going to want to play hard on every play, and then you're not going to be able to because you're going to get tired. And, mental toughness, physical toughness, discipline to execute. Those three things are critical factors in being successful, and there's one prerequisite. You got to be in great physical condition, because as soon as you get tired, you're not going to do any of those three things very well. You're going to make mental errors, so you're going to lose your discipline. Fatigue makes cowards of us all. You're going to lose your mental toughness, and you're not going to play with the same kind of effort and be the same kind of physical. So we work hard, and it's our way to do it, to try to compete and outdo people in those regards to create an advantage for ourselves.
One of the short yardage power formations you guys had Brandon Lewis in the backfield. Was wondering, was he drafted into that spot? Did he volunteer for it? And if he did, how many volunteers did he beat out for that spot?
Well, guys volunteer for a lot of stuff, but players don't decide who plays what. We're all for giving guys opportunities to do things that they want to do, that they're motivated to do. But Brandon Lewis was a guy that we thought that athletically, maybe, and maturity-wise, could contribute somewhere else on the team better than he was as a defensive lineman. And even though he was doing a good job, we felt like, okay, here's the guys that we have. When is this guy going to play? And we felt like we needed one more big body guy, whether you call it H-back, fullback, tight end, whatever, to play in special situations. And so he's spent the last couple of weeks kind of learning that kind of stuff to do that.
Coach, could you give us an update on Quentin Dial, how he's progressed this year, becoming this junior college player?
Quentin's made a tremendous amount of progress and improvement from spring practice, and I still think there's some apprehension sometimes as to being sure and certain about what he's supposed to do. Sometimes the call just doesn't come natural to him, especially when we're in stunts and blitzes and things like that. But that part of it is easier probably to overcome than some physical deficiency, which he doesn't seem to have. So we're working hard with him, and he's a guy that we need to make a consistent contribution in the future from a depth of the defensive line standpoint.
Hey, Coach, I have a couple. First, I know you can't baby these guys, but how important is it to keep Phillip Sims' attitude positive, considering he's just a play away from being the starter?
Right. Well, I think that's very, very important. I think that every player needs to know that it's probably more difficult when you're not the starter or you didn't start the game to be prepared to play the game as it is for the guy that knows he's going to go out there and play. So that takes a tremendous amount of maturity. It takes a competitive personality that you're driven to want to be the best, and you're going to continue to work to be the best at your position regardless of the circumstance that you find yourself in, and that you can't be result-oriented and say that because I'm where I am now, that defines me. That doesn't define you. You define yourself in terms of who you want to be and what you want to be and how you want to go about doing it. There was an interesting thing I saw on ESPN that Jeter said, if you want to be the best, good enough is just not good enough. So we don't want anybody out there just being good enough. We want you to be the best player that you can be. That's the goal of the program. That should be the goal of the player. And that's what we want every player to do. You know, it's just as hard for the backup right tackle to get ready to play the game knowing that that guy can go down too.
And the second question is, if I'm not mistaken, I think Duron Carter announced on his Twitter page that he was not going to be making the Penn State trip. And I think that's really how the news got broken about that situation. What are your policies concerning Twitter, and are you comfortable with players putting stuff like that out there on Twitter?
Well, you know, we monitor guys' Twitter. We don't want guys to put any information out about what happens, but we released the information before the game because we didn't want it to be a distraction to the team. I mean, the team knew it, but we didn't want everybody to start focusing on what's happening and all that kind of stuff. Our team knew what the situation was on Friday, but we didn't know until, I mean, if we'd have got the information on Saturday morning, the guy could have come up there and played in the game. So we weren't going to make an announcement until we were absolutely certain that that wasn't going to happen. And we found that out on Saturday morning, so we thought it'd be best just to pass out the information, you know, in pregame. But our policy is, you know, we don't want guys to Twitter information about our team that creates an advantage for the other team. And secondly, we monitor guys' Twitter so that they are not putting information out that could be personally damaging to them in the future in terms of the kind of information that they choose to put out there. But we don't have a policy where you can't do it.
Your defense has been stifling in both games, but it's been tested on the goal line once in each game and given up a touchdown. How much does that concern you?
I mean, the best goal line defense is don't get in it. I mean, that's what concerns me. What concerns me is not when they get the ball 1st and 1 at the 1, whether we stop them or not. It's how the hell they get down there. All right, and we didn't play as well as we need to play in 2 minutes. You know, we have them 3rd down and long, and we lose contain in the pocket, and the guy runs for a 1st down. We have them 3rd down and long again and get the ball thrown over our head. So that's how they got down there, and that's what concerns me. You know, we have good goal line defense. We've stopped people on the goal line before, but we executed what we were supposed to do in that game at that time. So we just didn't stop them short of the goal line. And we made a mental error on a 2-point play and, you know, didn't really execute that the way we should have.